This is Dan Fagella here with CLV Boost, and in this particular CLV Boost tutorial, we're going to be talking about the topic of pullback campaigns. And we'll be going into what a pullback campaign is, but first we'll review what we're going to be going over in this brief video here. First and foremost, we're going to talk about what a pullback campaign is. We're going to talk about keys to encouraging pullback results, some brief example of what a pullback campaign might look like, as well as determining what the highest return on investment pullback campaign might be for your business, in addition to principles to stick to. So very briefly, what is a pullback campaign? Why are they important? A pullback campaign is any campaign designed to bring a subscriber back to a point in a transaction where they did not previously take a desired action. So this might be a purchase, it might be a registration, it might be an appointment, it might be a survey. Something that they had clicked on from an email, but then for whatever reason didn't actually follow through with. So maybe they had clicked to an order form, they had clicked to register for a webinar, they had clicked to sign up and find a time to show up for an appointment or to get on the phone for an appointment if you run a business where sales or appointments are done on the phone. And for whatever reason, they didn't go through with that action. They didn't follow through on whatever that extra step was. So the purpose of these campaigns is to encourage more desired actions, whatever that might be. Again, we talked about some examples of what they might be, but also can be used to glean important information about subscriber actions and opinions. And this data will be used in turn to encourage the desired actions. So we might ask them, why didn't you use this order form? Was there a problem you saw on this registration page? Was there a reason you didn't want to do an appointment today? Something along those lines, and of course we take that into account to what we're going to be using for our calls to action later on in the campaign. So, briefly here, pullback campaigns are normally brief, maybe as short as one email, and oftentimes are, to be honest with you, or it can be as long as 3 to 4 emails, normally not stretching much longer out than about a week or so. So encouraging pullback. A pullback campaign is usually more than just a reminder to do something that someone did not do. So in other words, we're not just saying, hey, the thing you didn't do is still around if you want to do it. That usually doesn't happen to convert folks all that well. Often a pullback message must include a reason or explicit benefit to encourage an action, sometimes a different benefit than what had been used in previous calls to action. So let's look at some potential examples here. Here I've laid out 5 kind of general flavors of the way that we might motivate someone to come back to a place where they previously didn't take an action that we wanted them to take. Again, whether that's a purchase, a registration, an appointment, a survey, whatever the case may be. They clicked a link inside of an email to go do something, but they didn't end up doing that thing. So we can use urgency as one to start off with. Urgency might be some kind of a limited offer. So if you happen to have a certain time frame where someone has to register for this webinar, or they have to register for this event, or they have to take advantage of this particular offer, we might have a pullback campaign that'll automatically kick out maybe even just hours, if not the very next morning, to remind somebody that, hey, this thing's going away pretty soon. So the subject line of an email, if we're in an e-commerce environment, might be name or first name, Steve, the discount ends today. So if he clicked a link that said 33% discount off all gardening supplies, this weekend, then the pullback campaign, if he had clicked that, we might not want to bother everybody again with another announcement of the discount. But if for whatever reason he had clicked that link inside the email, he darn well knows the discount exists. So this isn't something that's too surprising or too abrasive. It's just letting him know, hey, by golly, I mean, it looked like you kind of clicked to go here. I mean, this thing's going to be ending in a day. So that's leveraging urgency a bit. In addition, we might do it for an event. So last call for event registration. So this might be, again, whether it's a webinar about a particular topic, whether it's an event that someone's coming up to. If they had clicked to buy their ticket, clicked to secure their seat, clicked to register for the webinar, but did not then purchase or then register, we might want to nudge them again. Again, this might be just 4 hours after that initial click. If you have a marketing automation software that's functional, that has some solid capability, then we might set up an automation rule. If someone clicks blank link, which might be the registration link for this event, and they don't register within 3 to 4 hours, which we can imagine it doesn't take 3 to 4 hours to read this 3-paragraph email, then we're going to kick off this message that says something like last call for event registration, particularly if it's the final day. So that might be an example of how we pull somebody back to register for an event. If we want to express concern, oftentimes this is a nice angle for a pullback campaign. We're just acting like we care. Like, hey, it looked like we looked like you were interested in this, but that it hadn't worked out. Is something wrong? So expressing concern and caring is often a nice angle for a pullback campaign because it expresses that maybe we're interested in learning why they didn't. So oftentimes this caring angle will be the angle that we take when we want to solicit their feedback. So we might say something like, in this bottom subject line that you see under the caring category of subject lines that we might use, we have, did something go wrong? We might say first name, did something go wrong? Or, the one above, I saw this today and I wanted to reach out. When they click that email, it sounds relatively personable. It might say, hey, it looks like you clicked to register for the webinar, but I take it that something about the webinar just didn't work for you. I know we have 2 separate time slots where people can come in. If you'd like to attend, make sure you do because because benefit. But if there's a reason that it didn't work out for you, or a reason that you don't want to register today, please press reply to this email and let me know. I'd love to help clarify anything for you, or potentially see if there's some other times they're going to be opening up to let you know about later on. Something along those lines. So caring is often great for gleaning feedback. Again, the core expression here is not that we're trying to be annoying and pound it down their throat. It's that we notice that they took half of an action, they clicked inside of an email, but they didn't follow up on that action. We just need to know why. So coming across as caring is often a useful frame for both encouraging the action and encouraging the feedback, which we had talked about earlier. Next up, we might just have a reminder. This would be a little bit polite. In B2B environments, some people, don't necessarily like to leverage the urgency card all that much, or maybe it's something that really isn't urgent. Maybe the caring angle is a little bit too personable for some companies. There's some, even larger companies, there's some companies like MailChimp or HubSpot or even larger companies that have a personal angle to some of their subject lines, to some of their emails, but some folks frankly kind of can't break out of whatever the corporate box or environment that they're working within, and they have to play a little bit of a reminder type game. I don't happen to like this category simply because it oftentimes isn't leveraging the real marketing principles of using as many of those kind of levers that we can use to encourage action. If anything, I like to encourage the other benefit category when people can't think of an explicit benefit. But if we have nothing else and or we're in a little bit of a stodgy environment, so to speak, oftentimes a polite reminder can often cut the mustard. To be frank, this isn't the end of the world because a lot of the time it's just a numbers game. In other words, you have X number of visits to your webinar registration page, and X number of them, X% of them, will convert to registrants. So if you have a pullback campaign that drops more eyeballs on that page again, presumably a relatively similar ratio of those eyeballs will take the person through to register for whatever the event is. Same goes for a sales page, same goes for everything else. So having a little bit of a yo-yo factor can work, even if it is rather polite. Again, I like to avoid this unless you're in kind of a stodgy environment and you can't leverage our other marketing tools, techniques, and angles. We could also go with an extra or a premium. So a premium, kind of the direct response world, is some sort of a bonus that in and of itself is a good enough or cool enough reason to go ahead and take an action, whether that's registering for something, whether that's purchasing something, whatever that desired action might be, as we had mentioned before. So a premium for a webinar might be something we're giving away for free. So the bottom subject line here, subject line 2, under the premium said, did I mention what I'm giving away on the webinar, question mark. So this might mention a couple free PDFs or video trainings or downloads or customer case studies that are going to be given away when people are there live on the actual webinar event. So this is some extra cool reason. Some sort of a small takeaway deliverable bonus that can just nudge somebody over the edge to make a purchase. So if it's an e-commerce or a sales page kind of a situation where we're looking for someone to get out their credit card, we might mention a bonus that we didn't tell them about. So if it's a large video set about some topic around home improvement, or we've been using the gardening example just to be very arbitrary, we might also include not necessarily just a coupon or something like that, which often doesn't really fit the premium category. The premium category sort of satisfies a unique and cool need in and of itself. We might give away a certain hose attachment if we're in the gardening environment, or a ratchet set if we're talking about home improvement or something along those lines. So some extra premium, some extra bonus, some tangible deliverable that is just enough where, hey, if I just got that when I bought this, or if I just got that when I went to that event, that might be cool enough. That's really what a premium is, and often brainstorming on good premiums can be a great way to make pullback campaigns more successful. In our own e-commerce business, we have entire programs that we're able to re-engage and re-engage and re-engage over time by consistently introducing additional premiums. You don't want to use it for every call to action that you have, but it's often very apt in a pullback environment. And in addition, we might talk about another benefit. So this doesn't actually imply giving away something. This doesn't mean actually discounting anything any further, although it can. So you could discount something further with a pullback campaign. But an other benefit just really refers to sort of framing an offer or an action in a different way. And this is very important to think about. When you think about your current campaign, your current email, the email that they clicked from, let's say you're aiming to get them to set an appointment. Let's say that you run a consultancy and you'd like them to set an appointment for you. Think about this. What is the main benefit or reason that they would set the appointment based on what you've written in that email? If it's all about solving problem X for that customer, well, maybe they weren't really interested in solving problem X. Maybe they actually have problem Y, or maybe they have problem Z. So we might want a pullback campaign that sort of talks about another problem that we can solve. So in this email down below, it says big problems we can help you solve now. So this might be a list. This might say, hey, we know not everybody comes to us for blank, but some of the issues that we help business owners like yourself with all over the country are, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. So this might list a greater variety of benefits they might glean from whatever that desired action is. It looks like I misspelled hour to out. But either way, here's why others liked our last event. So this other benefit might be framing the benefits others have gotten from a given event that you might have. So you can use other people as social proof in order to encourage a particular action. So if somebody hasn't registered for an event, maybe they really just don't know if it's right for them, you might have a bunch of great quotes and testimonials from some other folks that went there and really got a lot out of it. And if you're doing a good job here, we want these testimonials to be indicative of the personas who you're communicating to via email. We want the same problems, we want the same objections to be tackled, we want the same benefits to be harped on, we want the same problems to be solved. We want to be able to use others to convey those other benefits as well. But just think about it that way. This is a very important frame to sort of come at when it comes to pullback campaigns, is what was the reason or the benefit that we were harping on when we were trying to get that credit card out, when we were trying to encourage that appointment, we were trying to encourage that registration, and what might be some other benefits? What might be some other reasons? And how in that pullback can we say, oh, by the way, this might also help you with this? Or, or potentially we could take one of their more common objections. We could say, by the way, don't worry about this because of this guarantee, or don't worry about this because it's 100% no risk to you, whatever the case may be. So think about other benefits as well. There's a lot of creativity to be gleaned there, but I highly recommend finding a solid reason for a pullback campaign. Oftentimes, people will just turn these into completely vanilla reminders or repeats of the previous message, which at the end of the day is likely not to be most conducive to results. So moving forward, we're going to look at one quick example of what a pullback campaign might look like. Again, I've used the gardening example. This particular sample email that we're looking at now, I'm likely to have in Digital Marketer, which is kind of a digital marketing blog online and sort of an upcoming guest post, and I thought it would be apt to use it in this particular presentation. All right, so I'll read this aloud just in case you can't see it there, but it should be relatively clear. This is an example of a registration pullback email. So I'll outline a situation, then we'll talk about the subject and then the body copy. So again, this is a very arbitrary example. I realize the vast majority of you tuning in right now do not sell garden equipment, but this is a very apt and arbitrary example that we could very easily apply across e-commerce, across consulting, whatever the case may be. So here's the situation. Stephen is a prospect for ABC Shed Company, an organization that sells garden sheds and garden shed equipment. He has just clicked on an email about a shed building webinar, but did not actually register for the event. He receives this email 3 hours later or sometime the next day. So the subject here is, hey, Stephen, I wanted to reach out personally. So this is a little bit more of the concern angle. Remember, generally speaking, we want to pick a flavor, a reason, a method of pulling off our pullback, not just a repeat of the same vanilla messaging. So in this case, we're taking a little bit of the concern angle, and you'll see that play itself out in this very brief email. Stephen, this is Alonzo with ABC Shed Company. I was skimming through the system and I noticed that you'd clicked the link for our Big Expert Shed Builders webinar this coming Saturday. However, I noticed you hadn't registered for the event. Did something happen with your link? Here it is again. Shed Builders, Saturday at 11 a.m. Remember, on this webinar, we'll be giving away our top shed paints and primers list for 2014. Again, you can just bear with me on how tremendously arbitrary this is, but you get the idea. You can plug in anything here, as well as teaching you everything you need to know about putting up a shed in under 2 days. Yes, even if you're doing it yourself. So if there's something wrong with the registration page, please email me back here. I care. Otherwise, I didn't want you to miss out and wanted to contact you personally. Register now, blah, 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 blah. Best, Alonzo, ABC Shed Company founder. So, we could do the exact same thing with a content marketing webinar. If you're an agency selling content marketing, we could do the exact same thing with a on-site optimization webinar if you're selling a software that helps people split test their web pages. We could do the exact same thing. We're working right now with a software company in the day trading space. We could do the exact same thing with day trading fundamentals webinar. It's the exact same idea. But notice what I'm doing here. So I'm going to point out a few little nifty aspects of what's going on inside of this email, and then allow you to think a little bit about how you might be able to pull this off for yourself. This is a very simple template. So the concern email is more of a personal reach out. Even large companies that are about to go public at the time of this recording, like HubSpot, will use emails from individual people, not just from their company. Concern, in my personal opinion, like many emails, happens to generally glean better open rates when they appear to come from people and not from companies. So in this case, hey Stephen, I want to reach out personally. Notice that I'm addressing what had happened. I'm not just saying, here's the link again, buddy. I'm saying, hey, I noticed you had clicked, but it looked like you hadn't registered. Did something happen? Did something happen to your link? Here it is again. So I'm asking if something happened, but then again, I'm not just saying, hey, you hadn't registered. What happened? Anyway, let me know. I'm presuming that I can probably still convert this fellow. And again, like we talked about, the more eyeballs we have on the registration page, the more conversions we have out the other side. So we need to increase the eyeballs regardless, so we should always give them the opportunity to land back on that page, because a percent of those eyeballs will take the desired action. So remember, on this webinar, we'll be giving away. So you'll notice even here, I'm talking about the premium deal. Remember before, I talked about premiums as a way of nudging folks in a particular direction. So in this case, I'm reminding them of this cool extra deliverable little bonus that they're going to get in addition to a general benefit. So the cool bonus is this top shed paints and primers list. And then the general deliverable is how to put up a shed, even if you're doing it absolutely by yourself. So harping and reminding on the benefit, not just, hey, I wanted you to take this action, can you please take it? But speaking to them, speaking to what's actually going to get them to take that action, speaking to how it benefits them and their life, and also speaking to some cool stuff that they're getting. So again, notice the little marketing nudges here, and notice the relevance to the customer's life. Ultimately, they don't want to be spoken to in terms of just clicking stuff to click stuff. They want to know what they're getting out of it. And it's your job as the marketer to convey that adequately and get folks there for reasons that they care about. If there's something wrong with the registration page, please email me back here. I care. So, if by golly it wasn't loading on his browser, he was trying to access it via his mobile phone, and he was one of those active customers that's nice enough to be able to give feedback, this might be an email that could glean some information you could use to tighten up your landing pages, to tackle some customer concerns. Maybe a lot of these folks in the gardening space, maybe a lot of them are working on the weekends, and it's really hard for them to make the weekend times, and you realize that you need to open up multiple registration slots and not limit it to one, because it's trapping people to one time that they can't commit to. Whatever the case may be, people in different time zones. So this might give you some useful feedback, but at the same time, we're using the marketing language. We're encouraging the reasons to make the registration and the click happen, and we are guiding this individual to convert to our registration page and hopefully this time around be able to actually register. That would, of course, be the point. So, moving along. How to determine your own high ROI pullback campaign. So here's the first question to ask yourself. What is the online conversion action that has the grandest impact, or what is the online conversion action that has the grandest impact on your bottom line? So think about it this way. If you are an e-commerce company that has a certain kind of front-end product that most of your initial customers buy, again, if we're using the very arbitrary example of garden supplies, we might have most of our initial customers come in from magazines or search engine optimization, mostly looking for tools. And maybe we'll presume that most folks purchase kind of small tools, trowels, hose, things along those lines, and that those are really our biggest initial seller. All right. So if people register for a newsletter, or somebody registers for an account on your e-commerce site, if you're the kind of e-commerce site that has folks do that, and they land on one of those pages, that initial purchase might be sort of the grandest import for us. So if somebody converts through the newsletter, or they register themselves on that e-commerce page, and then for whatever reason they abandon the shopping cart at that phase where it's time to enter the credit card, this might be a great place for a pullback. Maybe that really is the highest import for you. Maybe you've determined that that's the big deal. Maybe if you're an e-commerce company, let's say you're an e-commerce company selling education. So there's a lot of folks in the startup space, the space that we're in, who are selling startup education courses. There's the famous ones like Udemy and Knowledge.ly and other folks like that, who are selling all sorts of different courses about how to market, how to growth hack, and how to launch their startup with PR, whatever the case may be. And maybe for them, they've determined that somebody who buys twice within the same month, after they purchase their first course, that person sticks on for the long haul, and that's really what we want to encourage. So what we might do is we might find somebody who is a new customer, who is now on our list because they've made a purchase, and then encourage them to click back to the site to look at another course, and if they leave, use a pullback to get them back to that initial product that we had driven them to, because we know somebody who buys twice in the same month is the kind of guy who's going to hang out and is going to continue purchasing from us. So maybe that's the biggest hit to your bottom line. Whatever the case may be, ask yourself, in terms of email conversion, in terms of calls to action from actual emails, what really makes the big difference in our bottom line? Is it selling your software? Is it selling an appointment? Is it getting somebody on a webinar for a conversion there, whatever the case may be? And that's likely to be where you want to focus. I wouldn't say, hey, build a pullback campaign on some very arbitrary back-end product or nominal activity, right? I would likely say that we should focus a pullback campaign, even if it's as short as one email, on something upfront, something critical, and something that we know we want to encourage and is actually going to make a difference in the bottom line. So next, ask yourself what kind of motivation and what length of a campaign might work best to deliver that conversion action. So think about your business, your example. Whether you are selling a service and you need an appointment, or you need, whether phone or in person, whether you're an e-commerce company, whether you're as a software as a service, whether you're an app and you're just looking for engagement, you need to drive people back to use your product, whatever the case may be there, what kind of motivation might actually drive them back? Do you need to frame a different benefit? Might that be the best one? Is there a way that you can leverage a premium, particularly for event registration in e-commerce? That happens to be a nice little go-to and often kind of a default in the direct marketing world. But whatever the case may be for you, think long and hard, or at least get a napkin and a pen out and sort of contemplate here what kind of motivation for this core online conversion action might be the best in terms of delivering the result that I'm looking for. And again, in e-commerce, as we had mentioned, this might be a front-end purchase of some gardening equipment, or it might be 2 purchases within 1 month. That is a very good sign for customer lifetime value. For a consulting firm, this may be a particular web form that helps to set an initial appointment time. So maybe you have a web form that allows people to select the time they'd like to be called back, the major concern that they're having with their company that they might need help with, etc. In that case, if you have them clicking to that appointment filler form and they're not filling it out, we ought to be able to detect that and that action that they're taking within the email should be able to kick off another email the next day, 2 days later, whatever the case may be, in order to ask why they didn't, or to maybe hit on a different benefit, approach it in a different way, leverage some testimonials, leverage some social proof, and again, encourage that action. If it's consulting, we really are talking about an appointment, and so we'd want to hammer home on bringing people back to that appointment form. If it's software and someone has, a company like HubSpot, who again is a great example of marketing automation, if they downloaded an ebook and then after they've gotten that ebook, they've received a number of emails that have driven them back to the software offering, really telling them about this big suite of great marketing functionality, and for whatever reason, they didn't buy HubSpot right then and there, or they didn't set an appointment to buy HubSpot right then and there, we might have a pullback campaign that says, hey, I see that you've seen our software suite. Here's some additional training videos on how it's helped companies just like yours, right? That might be a great pullback. That might be another encourager of that action that we wanted, which was purchasing the software. So these are just a couple examples, but again, if you want to apply this idea and you want to apply it immediately, you really don't need much more than a pen and a napkin, but ask yourself these 2 questions and you're right on the right track. Ask yourself these 2 questions and write as little as 1 email, and oftentimes you're going to see a positive ROI right off the bat. I'm borderline surprised as to how rare these are, even in companies that are 7, 8-figure businesses. Moving along, principles to stick to. Test your most important campaign conversions with and without pullback and gauge your results. In general, you're going to be using pullback, as I have here in bullet number 2, because you're going to be seeing the results that I'm predicting you will, whether, again, you're in e-com, whether you're in webinars, etc. But either way, you should at least be testing, and you should validate the idea. So I'm not telling you to trust me blindly here. I'm telling you to do this and do this well, but also to ensure that you're testing it, because this campaign, as with all of your campaigns, can be continuously refined, can continuously drive higher ROI, drive greater percentage of conversions as you tweak it and test it moving forward. Next, ensure that you use one of the motivational triggers of any pullback campaign, even if it's a single message. So even if it's one message, is there some urgency? Is there some concern you can express? Is there a premium you can throw in? Is there another benefit we can hit? Or is there a way of conveying this message that isn't just a bland reminder, as I have written down here? And also, in general, stick to 1 to 2 campaigns. Most pullback campaigns get pretty darn annoying after 2 emails. Sometimes it's applicable. I'd say on the aggregate, it's usually not. For most pullback campaigns, I'd say we can get some decently high results without shoving anybody away with just 1 to 2 email campaigns, email messages, if they're done correctly. So bear in mind, pullback campaigns are just one of many tools you have at your disposal to turn email marketing into a moneymaker for your business. If you have any particular questions, you can always contact us. In addition to doing our full-blown assessments, CLV Boost is involved in a whole number of different project-level activities as well, from conversion optimization to purchase or appointment, subject line and email copy critiques, and much, much more. So if you have anything specific you want to run by us, feel free to be in touch at clvboost.com/strategy. And otherwise, thank you very much for being here today with us at CLV Boost.